My name is Fong, Senior Scout, Class 9, assigned to the Galactic Observation Division under Commander Drez of the Velhari Empire. I have watched 43 civilizations rise. I have watched 43 civilizations fall. Mostly because we, the Velhari, helped them fall. Quickly, efficiently, without mercy, and honestly, without much paperwork. I say this not with pride, but with the calm, professional detachment of someone who has seen enough burning planets to stop reacting to the color orange. Then came Earth. Oh, Earth, where do I even begin? You must understand how the Velhari select targets. We do not rush. We study. We calculate. We send scouts like me. We gather data. We file 17 reports. We argue about those reports. Then we file 17 more. Only after that do we descend. By that time, the target civilization usually does not even know we exist. They're still arguing among themselves about borders, weather patterns, and which particular leaf should be used to wrap their food. Primitive? Yes. Threatening? Absolutely not. So when Commander Drez assigned me to observe the third planet of a yellow dwarf star in a quiet, unremarkable region of a galaxy nobody important had bothered naming, I yawned so hard my secondary jaw nearly dislocated. I truly did not care. I established my observation post in low orbit. I aimed my sensors downward, and I watched. For approximately 3 of their years, I laughed. I mean that literally. The laughter started on day 1 and barely stopped. These creatures, these humans, were spectacular in the most confusing way possible. They invented medicine and then argued about whether to use it. They built roads connecting their entire planet, then sat motionless on those roads, furious, for hours. They created music so beautiful it could make a Velhari soldier lower his weapon. Then they used that same music to sell footwear. I filed my first report to Commander Drez with the enthusiasm of someone delivering a joke. The report stated, "Target species is emotionally fractured, technologically inconsistent, and unpredictable. They possess nuclear weapons, but still make decisions by raising their hands and counting. Recommend standard invasion timeline. No resistance expected. Additional documentation may be required because these beings will likely argue about surrender procedures." Drez responded with a single line. "Good work, Vorn. Preliminary fleet assembly begins in 14 rotations." I smiled. I stretched all 6 of my arms. I prepared a warm drink for my rations. And then I made the catastrophic mistake of continuing to watch. It was winter in the northern hemisphere of the planet. A small group of 14 humans became trapped beneath a collapsed structure after a geological disturbance. Rescue teams arrived within hours. But the ground kept shaking. Equipment kept failing. 2 rescuers were injured. Logically, any species with even minimal survival instinct would have withdrawn and waited for safer conditions. The humans did not withdraw. They dug faster. For 61 hours, they dug. Using machines, using tools, and sometimes using their bare, bleeding, unarmored hands. They spoke to the people trapped beneath the rubble. They sang to them. One rescuer, a woman named Petra, pressed her face against a tiny crack in the debris and whispered for nearly 47 continuous hours. She spoke so the child trapped inside would know someone was still there. They rescued all 14. Alive. I sat silently in my observation chair for a very long time. Then I opened a new report to Drez and stared at the blank document. What was I supposed to write? Target species refuses to accept defeat. Because that was what I had just witnessed. Not heroism. Not military strategy, just refusal. Simple, stubborn, completely irrational refusal to stop. I had studied 43 civilizations. None possessed this trait. None. I closed the report without sending it. Outside my observation window, Earth continued rotating, unaware of the fleet assembling 6 star systems away, unaware of me, unaware of anything beyond their next crisis, which they were already preparing to survive. I tapped my claws lightly on the console. Something inside my chest. Something I had not felt in a very long time. Something veterans of 43 campaigns are not supposed to feel. Began stirring quietly. It felt, if I'm honest, very much like fear. I did not send that report for 11 days. 11 days, which by Velhari protocol is equivalent to a soldier standing silently in front of a commander for 11 consecutive days. Drez sent 4 follow-up messages, then 6, then one written entirely in capital letters. In Velhari culture, capital letters mean someone is being given exactly one opportunity to explain themselves before consequences arrive. I sent back 3 words. Still gathering data. It was not a lie. I was indeed still gathering data. I simply was not ready to explain what that data was doing to me. Because this is what I observed during those 11 days. I watched a man named Kaio, a farmer on a small island, spend every morning for 9 years carrying buckets of water uphill to a grove of trees he had planted himself. Those trees would not fully grow for another 30 years. He would almost certainly never live long enough to see them mature. He worked alone, without applause, whistling softly while he worked. I watched a girl named Sable, no older than 12, sit beside her sick grandfather in a hospital room for 6 weeks. She did not cry in front of him. She cried in the corridor, quickly, then wiped her face and returned smiling, pretending everything was fine so he would not worry. I watched a man named Fun, a firefighter with a permanent limp from a previous fire, run into a burning building after hearing a sound. The sound was a cat. He came out coughing, eyes red, holding the small animal against his chest with both arms. And he was laughing as if nearly dying for a cat was the most reasonable decision on a Tuesday afternoon. I filled 17 observation documents. Then I deleted all 17. None of them could properly explain what I was witnessing. What I was observing was not weakness pretending to be strength. It was not ignorance pretending to be courage. It was something the Velhari language had no word for. Something our civilization had never needed to name. The closest translation I could construct was this: the willingness to act beautifully even when nobody is watching. Even when it costs everything. Even when it will not matter for 30 years. Even when the ground is still shaking. Even when the building is burning and the only living thing inside is a cat. I sat in orbit above Earth and thought about the 43 civilizations I had helped destroy. None of them had done anything like this. Not one. They had armies, technology, weapons capable of cracking moons. But every one of them, when pressure came, when survival odds dropped, when the ground shook beneath them, calculated probability and chose the logical path. Humans do not choose the logical path. That is not an insult. It is the most terrifying observation I have ever recorded in 20 years of scouting. On the 12th day, Commander Drez contacted me directly through a live channel. Not a message, a live call. That meant his patience had ended. Drez had never been particularly patient. Vorn, he said in that low, controlled voice that had preceded the destruction of 7 planets. Is there a problem with the target? I looked at my screen. At that exact moment, far below, a teenager named Rook was staying awake for the 3rd night in a row studying for an examination that might determine whether he would enter a program that could, years later, help design water filtration systems for communities that did not yet know they would need them. There was no guarantee he would succeed. No guarantee anyone would ever thank him. He had a cup of cold tea and a torn notebook, and he was still studying. Yes, I told Drez. There is a problem. Silence followed. Explain, Drez said. I inhaled slowly through all 3 of my respiratory passages. They are not afraid, I said. Not of us. Not of anything, really. Commander, I have watched this species for more than 3 years. I have not seen them stop. Not for logic. Not for probability. Not for pain. They do not stop. And I do not know what to do with a species that refuses to stop. Another silence followed. Longer this time. Every species stops, Vorn, Drez said. Yes, I replied quietly. Every species we have ever encountered has stopped. That is exactly what I am trying to tell you. The channel went quiet after that. Somewhere below, Rook turned another page. The fleet, 6 star systems away, maintained its position in silent waiting. And darkness, as it turns out, is perfectly capable of waiting. When what it is waiting for gives no indication that it will ever stop, because humanity does not stop, and darkness can wait.